And we're live. At least according to the fucking thing. Um, I've had a rather long day, and that's why I'm late literally every fucking time. Um, but I'm gonna see if I can get this stream done with some reasonable quality relatively soon here, because I gotta call a friend for his birthday before like probably sleep. But all that aside, I'm gonna post this. Let a few more people filter in. This is gonna be an extremely aggravating special because I know that there are gonna be people who are upset with me for saying one or the other things. So it's gonna be fucking great. I'm gonna get flack from literally all sides. Probably gonna lose subs. If you want to help prevent that, feel free to share this with whoever you think would benefit from it, either now or later, and not like the shitty candy. Um, but anyway, uh, this is gonna be a rather eclectic set of ideas, because there were multiple things that angered me today, um, and yesterday when I didn't post anything. And I didn't post anything yesterday because I was penning out some of the notes for an article that I'm going to be writing for Polyquads. And that article is going to be about how borders are bullshit and how the idea of borders and a border wall, you know, concurrently are basic elements of slavery. So there's going to be that conversation, but there's also going to be a bunch of other stuff this week. Uh, I'm going to try to put out content every day that I'm helping deal with, her situation that we talked about on another stream. But basically, um, I'm going to try, and I can't guarantee anything. Um, all that aside, I think I've shared this with a sufficient amount of people. Um, the first thing I want to just say is an update. Um, that's interesting. I wish actually, but the counter for my change petition was just freaking out and showing like billions of people. I wonder if it just got like locked up with like the sign the loading thing. But the what I was gonna say is that if you wanted to help with this petition, we could still damn well use some signatures. Now I don't think it's gonna have any effect, but at least more people will know. Like mostly what I started the petition against Twitter child pornography for, and the pedophiles that are on a platform that allows 13-year-olds for, was the awareness that it could bring. And so far, 2,280 or sorry 68 people have seen it, but only 279 shares have happened, and only 643 supporters. Now, I do deeply thank all of those supporters, all those sharers, all those people who give a shit. But like there are millions of pedos on the planet to deal with, and not only that, but there are hundreds of thousands on Twitter, and there are only like less than 1,000 people who have signed this petition. So if you really want this to look like a concerted effort, there are plenty of ways you could do that. You could just tag people, annoy content creators you know about getting this petition out there. There's lots you can do, and I hope you do because like I pushed it really hard to a ton of people for the first like couple weeks it was out there, and it still didn't even get 1,000 signatures. Not even 1,000 people. There are pedo accounts with more followers than signatures on this petition. So I hope if you want that problem to be addressed, you can help that petition circulate. It doesn't matter whether it works or not. It just matters that people see it and people know what the problem is. Boris, hello. Clorox says, "What's the problem with pedophiles being on a platform with 13-year-olds on it?" If you need to ask that question, I can't help you. Walking away. All that aside, I just wanted to get that particular thing out of the way so that we could get into the meat of what's being discussed today. Now, before we get into anything, I just wanted to make a quick, suggestion. If you want to be effective at whatever you do, if you want to have the ability to survive the apocalypse, this isn't like an ad, even though it sounds like it. Um, I really hope you get in shape. And I hope you get in shape uh, because I think the apocalypse might be sooner than I even expected it to be, with a bunch of stuff that's coming. And I'm not going to talk about too much of that in stream. I actually have a video I'm making about a ton of concurrent things that are really fucking bad that the elites want you distracted from. Like, that's why they trend things like Kavanaugh, because they can do that. But I wanted to, if you've got the ability, I don't want you to hurt yourself. If you've got the ability, please consider, um sorry, I don't actually know why it's still stuck on the petition. Please consider getting in shape, because, like, there are so many things wrong, and most of the things that are wrong um, are going to lead to a situation where you're going to need to be in shape. Um, I'm repeating myself a lot because I'm trying to get this fucking thing to work. But this is what I did today, and I hope as many of you can join me as possible. Um, I said it's been a while since I posted my steps after doing 1,000 calf raises and 200 squats off some stairs with a 25-pound plate in my hands and doing a ton of core reps. I walked and jogged off and on to the closest Walmart to get some protein. When I don't skip leg day, I mean it. So I posted my steps here that you can see right there. And I hope as many of you are willing to join me in getting in shape as possible, because it might suck to get started, but it doesn't suck once you're actually doing it. And it's gonna suck if you're not in shape for the boogaloo, proverbially speaking. So I hope as many of you as can get in shape, because we need as many people as possible in shape. So consider doing that. I probably fucking pissed off some, like, person who's obsessed with ableism, but I really do hope that as many of you get your bodies usable for collapse as possible. Borda says, if you give me a link to the petition, I'll sign it right now. Okay, cool. And it's because it's not just signing it, though. It's signing it and also sharing it, because your signature is fantastic, and I'm really glad that you're willing to do that. But it's not effective if most people don't see it. So I really hope you share it around, in addition to signing it. There you go. Clorox says pedophiles are attracted to prepubescent children. Fuck you. And you assume nobody has self-control. Fuck you. No, that's not true. You're going by a very old definition of pedophilia, and the modern definition includes all children, because when the definition you're talking about was made, um, and yes, it was the first one, but when the definition you're talking about was made, mortality rates were so high that people didn't live long enough to let their prefrontal cortex develop somewhat so that they could be more rational. They didn't do that because they didn't think they needed to. Um, so fucking, well, sorry, they didn't have the rules associated with those people being minors because they didn't think they needed to. And why I'm bringing that up is the fact that people are living so long now means that people have the opportunity to fully develop into mature adults, with at least 50% of their prefrontal cortex, so that they can like think logically, think reasonably. And in saying that, what I'm trying to get at is the definition of child has changed. Where before it would be that, now it's 18. That's considered major in most of the U.S. and in also the federal legislation. And it's not just legislation, it's also a good middle ground between when puberty ends and when the prefrontal cortex is 100% developed on average. So no, it's not just an attraction to prepubescent children. That is a myth. That is something that pedophiles try to use to get out of the fact that they want to fuck a minor, which is what pedophilia is. It's a goalpost shift. Oh, I'm not a pedophile. I'm a hebophile. As if that makes it any better, any less exploitative, and as if that changes the modern definition of the term. It doesn't. You're wrong, and you should walk the fuck away. Yellow Fox, hello. Saying it's not pedophilia because they're older than 12 is like saying methamphetamine isn't a narcotic because it doesn't induce sleepiness. Yeah, definitely. That's actually a really fucking good way of putting it. So, now that particular subject is out of the way, because I don't want this stream to be all like anti-pedo stuff, even though pretty much you fight the government and you're fighting elitist pedos. I want this stream to be about a variety of subjects, and I just wanted to get that particular petition thing out of the way so that people could share, get that petition out there, circulate it if they wanted to among people that they know could spread it to a large audience, that sort of thing. But now that all of that is dealt with, let's get into one of the other subjects. That being the fact that Snowden has a book now. And I have not read it yet. I'm just going to preface this by saying that I want to read it, but, books aren't in the budget right now. And I don't know where a pirate version is. But this book is supposedly a tell-all book about why he did what he did and the circumstances surrounding it and what the things that were associated with the NSA were doing. That being, things like PRISM, X-Keyscore, all these programs. And more information that he later revealed. So I'm gonna read this excerpt from an article on the freethoughtproject.com, where it says, Edward Snowden releases tell-all book, promptly notes he's not planning to kill himself. To some, Snowden is a hero whose bravery and self-sacrifice helped to inform the world on the surveillance state treachery taking place behind the scenes throughout the U.S. and other Western governments. To others, namely those who profit and benefit from warrantlessly spying on innocent American citizens, Snowden's a traitor worthy of the death penalty. For those who don't know who Snowden is, we encourage you to read more. And now you can, as the world's most famous whistleblower is releasing his manifesto aptly titled Permanent Record, in which he delves into the journey that led him to spend the last 6 years in exile. So, this article is relatively good. I hope y'all check it out. But, I also hope you read the book. Because not only could, I'm assuming he used the revenue from book sales, but it should be relatively informative. And to people who give a shit about this sort of shit being revealed, informative is good. The fact that it's probably very information dense is very good for those of you who want to spread that information. You'll probably have more of it than before. I don't doubt that he's referencing stuff in this that he hasn't before. Because what is the point of writing a book if you could just go to a Wikipedia entry? So I hope you do check that book out, and it sidles nicely into a subject that I've talked about multiple times. And that subject that I've talked about multiple times is the fact that the Constitution is a con job. I mean, aside from all the ways that it's being basically shat on, which I'll get into, um, and all the ways that it circumvents ethics to begin with, uh, like let me read a quote that I think everybody should know. It's from Lysander Spooner, and it's the appendix to a fantastic 59-page short read called No Treason, Number 1, The Constitution of No Authority. And the whole thing basically details, in fine detail, how not only is the U.S. Constitution illegitimate, but its hold of a country on all of us is illegitimate. He does a better job of saying what he said than I would, so I hope y'all read it. But the appendix really says everything you need to know, where he says, "Inasmuch as the Constitution was never signed, nor agreed to by anybody, as a contract, and therefore never bound anybody, and is now binding upon nobody, and is moreover such and one as no people can ever hereafter be expected to consent to, except as they may be forced to do so at the point of a bayonet, it is perhaps of no importance what its true legal meaning as a contract is," talking about people interpreting the Constitution to mean one thing or another, which I'll get into. Nevertheless, the writer thinks it proper to say that, in his opinion, the Constitution is no such instrument as it has generally been assumed to be, but that by false interpretations and naked usurpations, the government has been made in practice a very widely and almost wholly different thing from what the Constitution itself purports to authorize. He has heretofore written much, and could write much more, to prove that such is the truth. But whether the Constitution really be one thing or another, this much is certain, that it has either authorized such a government as we have had, or has been powerless to prevent it. In either case, it is unfit to exist. Now, I've posted that quote so many fucking times, and zero statists have found a way past it. Zero statists have found their way to saying that this is untrue, or that it needs work, with any semblance of logic. So, I challenge you, if you still believe in the Constitution for some reason and are still subscribed to me for some reason, I challenge you to check into this particular piece of writing, because it's insane how people still think this paper has a hold on them. Now, I'm going to try a different format today than I have in the past. And this particular format's going to be, I'm going to intersperse the sponsors in between subjects. And I'm going to see if this makes it any easier to watch. So one of the sponsors for this, I just want to bring your attention to Love Java. Performance Butter Coffee with MCT and CBD oils. If you need an analgesic, if you need a pick-me-up, if you need any sort of, basic health condition treated, this might be for you. Obviously, whatever. I'm not a doctor, but it worked for me. And I hope you check that out by the link in the description. Every time you do, it helps me out a lot. Now back into the topics. So, now that we've gone through Lysander Spooner and his interpretation of the Constitution, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, he became a political activist after trying to start his own private mail service, noting inefficiencies in the way that the U.S. Postal Service was run, and the elites basically pushed him out of town. Um, and if that's not already angering enough, basically they spent the rest of his life trying to make a fool of him. Like, we basically only know about his writings now because other people have unearthed them. Um, and, I don't know if he'd be happy with the country that exists now, especially since he warned people about it by saying that the Constitution was worthless and a bad contract and not worth it. So I wanted to get that on the air here so we could get into the topic of Constitution Day in all the fucking ways that it's being violated. So the first thing I want to bring up is the fact that the Constitution was never designed to serve everyone. It was always designed to serve the few that were able to puppeteer the government, that being wealthy, white, male landowners. For the most part, everybody else was left out of decision making and wasn't allowed a seat at that table or the same social treatment as many other people were, because they were put in this caste system by the fucking literal government that said that they were too poor or too powerless to give power to. So I want people to think about that when they think about the rest of the Constitution. It didn't even start out by respecting humans' inalienable rights, and if it did, slavery would have been outlawed as soon as the U.S. government was established. That's not what happened, obviously. Now, when people talk about slavery, they talk about it as though it's gone. It's no longer here. And I would argue, I would make a definitive case that that is not true based on this one thing which everybody claims makes it true. So I want to go over the 13th fucking amendment and why it's trash. Because a lot of people assume that the 13th Amendment barred slavery. It didn't. It didn't remotely bar slavery. What it did, and I'm going to read this to you from this Google search, it said, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to the jurisdiction. So, okay. Sounds good to me. Don't commit a crime, and you won't be a slave. However, but there are so many laws now that were enacted way back when, and so many laws that were enacted way back when, to make criminals out of people so that people could still be used for slavery. Now there's a huge fucking prison system overstuffed with inmates that's only just now starting to see declines in prison populations as the legalization of certain substances like marijuana has taken root. And this matters because there are probably the same amount of slaves as there always were. Because we have this giant population of people, it's okay to enslave. They make license plates, they make textiles and shirts, they make a wide variety of things for almost no money. And they pay them a small enough amount of money that it's not a hit on the pocketbook, and a big enough amount of money that they don't get immediately called slavers. But they're slavers. These people aren't working for retirement funds. They're working for enough that they can get more ramen at commissary. That's it. As anybody who's been in prison that does labor in exchange for, shortened sentences will tell you, these places don't pay you enough that you're not losing money and effort in terms of like the amount of labor you put in. Like the sweat equity is so much greater than the amount that they're paid that it's not even remotely reciprocal. Um, so not only is slavery still legal, but all you have to do is be a criminal. So there's so many laws on the books that make people criminals. They even fucking put people in jail through systems that they fucking controlled. Like the CIA drug running through the inner cities. The Iran-Contra affair. The fucking... the crack that got placed in there. The LSD that they got a huge generation of people addicted to as part of a side effect of, like, their programs for mind control. I mean, fucking that book came out, Ginzer or whatever, where they went over the brushing various basics of the MK program. And in that, they went over drugs, you know, fucking whatever cool shit that they can pull up. They didn't go over all the, you know, deep mechanisms. I encourage you, all of you, again, to watch The Minds of Men by True Stream Media. Because it goes so much deeper. But the fact is that a huge generation of people got addicted to a drug that the US government was fucking pushing. LSD. And that brought up a huge resurgence in psychedelia, which meant that a bunch of people were trying to experiment with shit like DMT, like shrooms, anything that would let them be perception altered for a moment. You know, MDMA, whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they've gotten a huge generation of people addicted to drugs and made them illegal. Prohibition, where it stopped, has led to huge decreases in crime, huge decreasement in illness and comorbid conditions to, you know, the fucking addiction that brought people into the hospitals en masse. It's seen massive economic prosperity, not only from taxation, which is still theft and I don't support, but from the massive amount of new people in the workforce that weren't being thrown behind fucking bars, that were allowed to be productive members of the goddamn society. Right? So, this is just one example of a way that they throw people in jail. Conscientious objectors were thrown in jail. Dissenters were thrown in jail. People who stood in the same place for too long were thrown in jail. I mean, let's look at Jim Crow laws, which everybody glosses over as, you know, just a way to keep the black man down, but nobody actually looks over the fact that, hey, these laws were instated to re-enslave black people. So, we're supposed to worship Lincoln. The fucking inscription above his goddamn idol altar, that they call a memorial, says it's a temple, right? So, it's not a cult. We're supposed to worship a man, but it's not a cult. He didn't do what he said he did after saying he would, you know, not do it if he didn't have to. After pushing a bloody war, suspending habeas corpus, I could go on, right? But the Constitution never protected anybody from that sort of slavery, and it certainly doesn't protect them now, especially since it's no longer just black people in jail, in servitude. It's everybody in jail. And they still disproportionately target black people because, like Body Count said, black skin has always stood for poor. So there's a shit ton of black people still in jail, but also everybody else, anybody that they can get in there to wring money out of, right? It's still slavery. So don't talk to me about inalienable rights like the fucking Declaration did. Don't establish a fucking government based on liberty and freedom if you're going to enslave a huge class of people, bar access to voting, bar access to decision making, and a host of other things, because you want to control the country. That's not freedom. All right? So I wanted to get that in because I wanted people to look at that specific amendment as like sort of emblematic of how the Constitution doesn't mean shit anymore, if it ever did to begin with. And in order to really highlight the rest of them, let's look at the Bill of Rights, which I think is a really good way to highlight the fact that the Constitution doesn't mean shit. Because, as you can see, I'm going to bring this up for you, the fucking Bill of Rights only existed because the Anti-Federalists weren't okay with the Constitution. They weren't okay with it. You shouldn't be okay with it because it wasn't far enough in the direction of freedom. So what did they do? They petitioned for a Bill of Rights. They petitioned for their rights to be goddamn recognized. And in this particular case, the way that they did that was 10 amendments. 10. The first Amendment, obviously, is the one regulating speech. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So, that seems like a good idea, right? But it didn't work. I mean, so many examples of speech being curtailed. Not just in the form of the U.S. government directly gag ordering people or silencing them in other ways, but also the U.S. government outsourcing its censorship capabilities to third parties, like with the government to Facebook pipeline that you can Google. It's definitely real, it's definitely bad, and it's definitely something that is an arm of the U.S. government. And this, in addition to Twitter, whatever third party is willing to suck U.S. cock, is basically an arm of the U.S. government's censorship apparatus. If they can control thought in that way, they can control it in so many other ways. Because all they have to do is prevent your ideas from becoming popular, and nobody will say them. Censorship is real, and it's happening now. So the First Amendment, barring religious, discrimination, barring speech being outlawed, barring petition of redress of grievances, all of these things are fantastic on paper, but when you get down to whether or not it's happening, most people don't give a shit about their rights being violated. When Snowden comes out with his book, you're going to see a shit ton of examples of the government using a chilling effect on speech that's present when you know that the government is fucking watching you. And there are so many examples of this sort of thing happening, right? So, all of that aside, let's be very specific. The Constitution didn't protect people from, their inalienable rights being violated. It doesn't protect your speech. So let's go down the list and see what else it doesn't protect. The Second Amendment, obviously, to anybody who doesn't know this because maybe you're from another country, this is what it is. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Psych! Psych! So many ways that the right to bear arms is infringed. If you can basically say any gun that you don't like is, bannable because it has features that you don't want on the streets, to the point where everybody's just carrying around single shot like tube guns because everything else has been outlawed, The Second Amendment doesn't mean shit. So, you know, if I can't own the same guns that the government does, if I can't have the same arms that they do, it's totally worthless for this amendment to exist. Now, people are like, oh, well, you know, it's a well-regulated militia. So clearly they're the only ones who should be allowed to have guns. That's not what it means. It means that we're supposed to have the same guns so that we can be the militia and regulate it when it gets out of hand. Keep the government at bay. I like that interpretation because it keeps the shall not be infringed part nice and bold. If you say that the average citizen doesn't have the right to bear arms, all you're saying is you want the government to have universal authority over guns. And you're basically giving Trump unilateral authority over guns. It's not a good idea, leftists. And to the rightists who say, yeah, this is a weapon of war, you know? I carried one of these when I was in the military, and cut. Nobody should care. Because these particular things are emblematic of the violations of the rest of your rights. If they can chip away at the type of guns that are acceptable to own, until eventually you own precisely 0 guns except your state-approved single bullet tube gun, it's not a right to not be infringed. Now fucking is it? So unless we're able to own whatever guns are available, we're being infringed upon. They're infringing, they're treading. So really think about the reasons that they're allowed to do this in a country with an amendment that says shall not be infringed. And you won't end up with an answer that says that they give a shit about the Bill of Rights. So that's the first 2 out of the way. So let's get to the next fucking 8 after I address whatever's in chat here. Oh Jesus, it's a fucking dumpster fire. Yeah, okay, it's all about pedophilia in the goddamn chat. Boris, if you're going to pay anybody, I would prefer if the money went to me, because plenty of people have said that they've donated to Change, and let me give some backstory here. For some reason, I don't think I was responsible. For some reason, I was logged out of my account and could not log back in on change.org. When I was logged out of my account, it was forcibly, like, I don't remember ever saying log me out or anything similar. And then later, I tried to get back in, and I couldn't. And I kept on trying, and I kept on trying for days and days, and kept on badgering them in public and in their help desk for like a week or something similar. And only a week later, after seeing my help ticket and after doing nothing for days even after seeing it, they decided finally that they would let me back in. And their reason that they said that I wasn't allowed in my account was because I deactivated. They said, you know, we're happy to have you back. So I don't think that staff is worth money, to be completely honest. And if you're going to donate, I'd appreciate that. Because, you know, fucking, I need to eat. And also, I got to pay my hosting that's coming up on the 24th. I got to pay my next several months of phone bill. I got to do a lot of things. And, you know, not the least of which is I've got to get my computer situation sorted out, and I've also then got to get a freedom box so that I can start back up the full force anti-pedo action by starting a Riot server with a fucking URL bot from probably Namecheap. But basically, I need like a few $100s in the next like month in order to keep everything going smoothly. So if you wanted to donate, I would be very grateful. You know, to either source, but I don't think change is worth the money, personally, because of my experience with them. Um, Clorox says, if you ban pedophiles from Twitter, you achieve nothing. They will still use that platform to connect minors. You only prevent legitimate non-contact pedos from use. That's such a stupid argument. First off, if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I need all the support I can get to boost this, because you know that talking about stuff like this is gonna get my content deboosted. Share it around, get everybody talking. I want to talk to a variety of people, and I can only do that with your help. But, fucking, to get this particular stupid idea out of the way, this is like saying, don't ban murderers, because the only ones you'll ban are the ones who don't want to murder anymore. It's a bullshit argument, and it doesn't account for the fact that some people are going to be encouraged to murder if you let them like the murderers have Murderers Anonymous on Twitter, where there are lots of potential victims to murder. And if you take that to any sort of extent, where a demonstrable victim is like very clearly there, in this particular case, children, because pedophiles are predators, which, by the way, I've got a funny thing to bring up after I'm done with this bullshit, then those people will have a better way to victimize people. It's real fucking simple. So no, that isn't true. Yes, that's bullshit. Well, they clearly don't have self-control if they are molesting children, and I'm correcting his spelling errors, of which there are many, by the way, for those of you who give a shit. But there are many who live a full life without ever touching children. Some even have children of their own. Well, I mean, that sort of invalidates it, doesn't it? So all this is bullshit. I'm not gonna fucking justify all that with a response, because you're full of shit, Clorox, and I hope you lose things. Adam says, too many groups already pushing for acceptance, and they're run by pedophiles. Sure, let's make it a sexual orientation so it's acceptable. Nope. Yeah, agreed. Totally. Boris says, all I ever see on Facebook is people claiming that the Constitution is a set of rules to restrain the government. All I can say to that is, well done, mate. Yeah, exactly, right? Adam says, you can't prosecute for thought crime. However, if you have that affliction, you should probably stay off social media and where children are. Exactly. Like I said, it would be aggression to, go out on a killing spree of pedos, just because of what they think. I don't support that necessarily. But what I do support is understanding trespassing and, freedom of association as potential methods to deal with this scourge. In this particular case, say they're not allowed on your property, and get a bunch of people to say the same thing, so that if they show up, they're trespassing. And so if you find out that one person who is there is one, you can say, get the fuck off my property. This seems reasonable to me. And I don't know what the fucking problem with that would be. And in this case, it'd be doing that on Twitter too. So fuck that, Get the fuck out of here, Clorox. Anyway. It's a good time to bring up the next sponsor. Castle Keep Crafts. Amanda Straley. She makes a lot of cool little things, including handcrafted stained glass and a variety of other things, one of which, if I can find it, because I don't actually specifically know where it is, I will bring up and show people. Yeah, it doesn't look like I can find it right now. I think I put it somewhere, and I'm not exactly sure where. But, yeah, fucking getting back on track. Hand-painted stained glass lots of interesting plushes, lots of other sorts of arts and crafts. Feel free to check out Castle Keep Crafts. She does good work. I have an example somewhere of her work, and I've presented it in streams before, so if you're really interested, you can check into that. But all that aside, she's looking to boost her sales and get her name out there. Like, even if there's something she doesn't provide, you could probably contact and see if she'll do it. Because I think she, like many other people, wants money. But she sells like wood burnings, like hand painted stained glass, all the works. So feel free to check her stuff out. Buying stuff from my sponsors supports me because they still want to be sponsors. So feel free to do that. Hello, Finian. Welcome to the fucking hell chat that's all about pedophilia because we have a pedo defender in chat. And because I don't censor my personal chat. My YouTube channel is relatively unfriendly to children. Most of them stay away, so I don't feel like anybody's gonna get groomed in my chat. But that's the reason I don't want them on fucking Twitter, because there are 13-year-olds there. And there are 13-year-olds on Discord, but using Discord, they literally lied to push me off the platform. So, I'm gonna send them another message and see if they got any proof, but they fucking don't. Finian is also a sponsor. I guess I'll get that sponsorship done here too. Liberty Professionals. You'll see the symbol flash on the lower left. Although it occurred to me while this stream was going, I don't have Necrotopia in there yet, so I'll have to add that. And apologies to Keenan if you show up. But Finian does Liberty Professionals. It's private consulting for your security. It's also private investigation if you live in the Virginia area and you need that. So feel free to hit up LibertyProfessionals.com for all that shit. Anytime you help one of my sponsors, you help me. And you help yourself because they're good at what they do. All this stuff is only possible because of donors and because of people who give a shit. So feel free to support any of them. He says his goal is to make a full rights enforcement agency in the future, which I hope for. I think he'd be good at it. But if you decide that you want to support what I do more manually, there are many ways to do that in the description. And just for shits and grins, because I literally need money relatively soon, I'm putting my PayPal link in the description. Oh shit, wrong. That was actually the wrong link. Removing that. Because I've got hosting coming up, I got phones, I got all this stuff. So if you want to help, there are many ways to do that. Clorox says, just one question. What would you do if one of your children came out to you as a pedophile? I would say stop making bad decisions, but there's very low likelihood that they would make that choice because the idea of pedophilia happening to somebody who has no history of it in their family, therefore no genetic predisposition that you might want to say, and no poor parenting, because I plan on peacefully parenting, turning out to be one of those, I probably wouldn't have to worry about that. And if I did, I would say make better choices. You know, I can't handle this sort of bullshit being perpetuated. And thank you to Boris, who says that he can donate £10. It will help, actually, significantly. Because that's like, you know, I think like 6% of what I need. If the rest of you want to chip in, feel free. But either way, this isn't about that. So I don't have Super Chat because this channel doesn't have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. I've been sort of, once I start making really good content that's really solid, and not everything is streams, like a lot of my content's going to start being specific keyed in videos when I can focus. But I don't have Super Chat yet because the the super chat function is only available to monetizable channels, and those channels have to meet a review process, and they also have to have 4,000 watch hours and fucking 1,000 subscribers. So I need both of those. If you guys want to help, liking, subscribing, sharing, all of that would be huge. You know, that's the best, easiest way and freest way that you can support me. How close is it to... I don't know what you mean, how close is it to what? But... to the watch hours? I actually don't know right now. Let me check. Because, you know, primarily, I sort of check after every stream, but there's only a little chip of it taken away at the end of every stream. So I'm gonna check into this and see about this, but I don't think it's remotely close to where it needs to be. I am at 654 subscribers, so hello to the 2 new people here. I'm at 9.7 thousand watch time minutes. So, doing some simple math here, that'd be about, let's say, 10,000. 10,000 divided by 60 is 166. So I'm basically like, I'm not even a quarter of the way there. I'm not even close to a quarter of the way there because almost nobody's watching. And it's not you guys' fault. It's not my subscribers' fault. It's my fault for not putting out more content than these fucking long, disorganized streams. So once I start putting out content closer to 10 minutes and doing it regularly, a lot of things are going to change and improve. And thank you for sharing it on Facebook. Being super chat possible will happen once I hit that threshold. So that should answer that question relatively well. But all that aside, oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I got an email and it was important, so I actually thought it was a donation, but it's spam. Mary Freya says, "Don't fail to reply. My message is important. I have a very huge business offer for you. If you're interested, contact me. I will reply to you immediately." And then repeat it in Spanish because se habla español, I guess. ¿Por qué? Muy poquito. Of course, I just asked why, but whatever. Anyway, this stream is really derailed right now because of fucking pedophiles in chat. So let me get back into the subject here. Would suck to build things here, though, to have your channel removed. Maybe do another site that offers in-chat payments. I plan to do multi-streaming soon, and one of the sites that I plan to multi-stream to is BitChute. And I plan to migrate to BitChute relatively quickly. So once I do that, it should be relatively easy to do that sort of thing. And I also plan to get into gaming streams and all that sort of shit. I keep on putting it off because there's a lot of stuff that I need to do. Yeah, definitely. I want to move on from Pedo Defenders forever. I want to not think that they exist. But unfortunately, I got a brain in the skull. Anyway, to move on from that, let's get back into the bill of suggestions. I guess would be a really much better way of fucking putting it than Bill of Rights. And talk about the Third Amendment, which is, no soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. So this is the No Quarter Amendment. And it's real interesting because not only is this amendment tweakable in the same way all the other amendments are, because the government can interpret shit in whatever way it wants, but in this particular case, it's bullshit because the U.S. government has been at war for a very long time and has been able to put their soldiers pretty much wherever they wanted. Like, if if you consider the fact that cops can come into your house or commandeer whatever they want, and they've been able to do this for a long time now, without a warrant, without probable cause, all because of qualified immunity, basically the quarter thing is bullshit, and it doesn't work anymore. And that really, really well ties into the Fourth Amendment, which is the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath of affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Civil asset forfeiture. Huge example of how this amendment can be fucking violated on the regular. Stop and frisk, where you're not secure in your person if you can't walk it down a sidewalk without being molested by a cop, or without the threat of death from that cop saying, he started running, he kept walking, he didn't just do what I said, you know? And that's the same thing in every single jurisdiction, with very few exceptions, where the average person can't fucking go for a walk without having to do what cops tell them to. So I don't like hearing this bullshit about the fucking right to be secure in your person's papers and effects, apart from warrants. A cop doesn't give a shit, you know? A cop can get rehired after being guilty of misconduct. A cop would have to go on a mass murdering spree or a mass raping spree to even get fired from their fucking department, much less caged, you know? So I don't like this idea that because this word set exists on a piece of paper, we're secure. That ain't security. Finian knows. Liberty Professional knows that, fucking, we're dealing with people who do not give a shit about these words. And that's why all these things exist. That's why civil asset forfeiture exists. That's why, stop and frisk. That's why you can drive down the road and no matter what you're doing, you have to stop for officers. They turn on those lights and sirens. You fucking turn on that sound in that bar. You gotta stop. That's not security. It's not security to have to do anything the government says at any point upon risk of death. All that is the illusion of security. So, there's that. And it really comes in close when you got a fucking no-knock raid system that ends up killing people and getting cops only fired and not jailed for murder. And gets policy changed, maybe, at some point, should they decide to. This isn't security. This is following orders at the point of gun, universally. And not only that, but Snowden came out with his fucking book today. And it's still a fucking problem. NSA spying is still happening. CIA spying is still happening. Vault 7 didn't go away. Prism didn't go away. X-Key Score is still fucking here. So when people say that, like, the fucking Fourth Amendment applies, well, countless people are being barred from that amendment's protections. And while that amendment is still breezing on by, being unenforced, I don't believe you. I mean, I've got the timeline up right here. And the timeline is real fucking simple here. So I'm gonna bring this up. This is the EFF Electronic Freedom Foundation timeline of NSA surveillance. And I'm just gonna, scroll through this lightly. You guys can read it. You guys can read about how they can search through your documents. You guys can read how they can destroy your freedom from unlawful search and seizure, destroy your privacy, rifle through your person's papers and effects. It doesn't fucking matter. Because guess what? Yeah, a lot of these things are, quote, ended. But they had to be fucking revealed. Where's the next Snowden? I bet they have more vetting now. You know? Where's the next Snowden? Oh, well, it doesn't matter. You know? Snowden did it. That's all we needed done. Bullshit. This is still happening. It's still a problem. And if you don't think so, I encourage you to finish looking at this list sometime. It is insane how much was revealed by the NSA whistleblowers. Not only Snowden, but like 4 or 5 other people that almost nobody talks about. And it's probably fucking insane exactly how much shit has been happening in the meantime. I'm going to stop scrolling because you should go check that out for yourself. But the fact that people assume that the Fourth Amendment applies when clearly the NSA has already fucked that up, clearly the CIA has already fucked that up, clearly all these police officers, all these courts that have agreed to civil asset forfeiture have fucked that up. And when all this stuff is probably still being like expanded in many ways, and when not expanded, outright assisted by the fucking mega corporations that are behind a lot of the applications you use, I don't fucking believe you when you say that the Fourth Amendment works. Because the NSA stuff that Snowden exposed was a lot. But at this point, with a massive amount of transfer speeds, with the huge data infrastructure that's fucking everywhere, right? I don't know how you can think that there's not just a swath of unaddressed flaws in our privacy that the government is exploiting right now. So please look into that. Please look into Vault 7, which I will also put up on the screen so that you can see just how bad this fucking was. I still have a copy on my bricked computer. You know? Please look into Vault 7 because this is problematic in a very specific sense of the word. Especially this. Weeping Angel is hilariously bad. On October 1st, April 2017, WikiLeaks published Vault 7 Part 6, codenamed Weeping Angel, which is a hacking tool co-developed by the CIA and MI5, used to exploit a series of smart TVs for the purpose of covert intelligence gathering. Once installed in suitable televisions with a USB stick, the hacking tool enables those televisions' built-in microphones and possibly video cameras to record their surroundings while the televisions falsely appear to be turned off. How are people not talking about the fact that all these TVs are exploitable? You know? Fucking Athena is huge. The published user guide, demo, and related documents were created between 15 and 16. They're all about a malware allegedly developed by the CIA in 2015, roughly 1 month after Microsoft released Windows 10, with their firm statements about how difficult it was to compromise. Both the primary Athena malware and its secondary malware named Hera are similar in theory to Grasshopper and After Midnight malware, but with some significant differences. One of those differences is that Athena and Hera were developed by the CIA with a New Hampshire private corporation, so much for the fucking Free State Project, called Siege Technologies. During a Bloomberg 2014 interview, the founder of Siege Technologies confirmed and justified their development of such malware. Athena malware completely hijacks Windows Remote Access Services, while Hera hijacks Windows DNS Cache Service. Also, both Athena and Hera affect all current versions of Windows, including, but not limited to, Windows Server 2012 and Windows 10. Another difference is in the types of encryption used between the infected computers and the CIA listening posts. As for the similarities, they exploit persistent DLL files to create a backdoor to communicate with CIA's LP, steal private data, then send it to CIA servers or delete private data on the target computer, as well as command and control for CIA operatives to send additional malicious software to further run specific tasks on the attacked computer. Please think about this. Think about all of these ways in which your person's papers and effects are being attacked. Express Lane is installed and run with the cover of upgrading the biometric software by OTS agents that visit the liaison sites. Liaison officers overseeing this procedure will remain unsuspicious, as the data exfiltration disguises behind a Windows installation splash screen. This is nuts, and your life is increasingly digital. Please understand, Elon Musk was not wrong or exaggerating when he said that you're a cyborg now because of your phone, because of all your tech that's attached to your personal online IDs. Your life is in the cloud now if you're a normal citizen. And the US government is hacking your life. So don't tell me that the Fourth Amendment works. Don't tell me that the Fifth Amendment, lack of personal incrimination, works when conversations you think you're having in private are so constantly and blatantly leaked. Remember, Facebook got In-Q-Tel money. Facebook got CIA venture fucking capital money. And then it was later shown that they were freely giving your chat data to the fucking government. So please look into this. I know I'm the crazy person on TV in a movie at this particular point, but please look into this. And it's not just fucking, like, there are physical ways. I already went over civil asset forfeiture. I already went over basically having to stop whenever the government orders it. I already went over fucking stop and frisk. There are many such cases. I can't cover them all in under an hour. So maybe I'll go into some really disturbing ways that people are being abused. That the Fourth Amendment doesn't mean shit, right? But the Fifth Amendment, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. So that's why Bradley or Chelsea Manning is in jail. Again, in solitary fucking confinement, being tortured. You know, one of the things that they found out with the MK programs was that isolation wipes your brain and lets you be reprogrammed. With no feedback to the outside world, you're fucked. You lose yourself. You become another different person. And now Chelsea is in jail again, in solitary again, because she won't testify to the grand jury. So already the grand jury element of the Fifth Amendment is being weaponized against the prime context of the Fifth Amendment, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service of time in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. So that's the double jeopardy thing. But you can put her back in jail, right? You can put her back in solitary. You can hold her accountable as many times as you want, as long as you don't call it that. You know? Because it's basically still the same punishment. And if you don't think so, putting her between a rock and a hard place, between selling out as an activist and selling out another activist, and going back into jail, you know, that's not a choice. That's not freedom. That's not the Fifth Amendment that we're all supposed to know and love. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. Yeah, because testifying about Assange wouldn't be being used as a witness against yourself, right? Yeah, I helped this guy commit crimes. I helped him commit crimes, and, you know, fucking it's a catch-22. She either goes to jail for refusing to testify against herself and another activist based on conscientious objection, or she goes to jail for the thing that she was already in trial for. If you think that they would let her go after she admits to doing the things that they said she was in jail for originally, fuck that. No. Right? Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. Unless, of course, the due process of law is yet another law that we brought up to specifically throw you fucking into a threat for your life, liberty, or property. Civil asset forfeiture, stop and frisk, etc., etc. Right? Nor shall private property be taken for public use, unless civil asset forfeiture, without just compensation. Unless civil asset forfeiture. I don't know how people can assume that the Constitution matters in a corrupt society like this. And if it doesn't, then there's no purpose to either citing it or respecting the society that it supposedly cites. It's really fucking stupid to think that this matters. And I'll be going over the next amendments after I check chat, and after I address a Facebook message I was sent. Discord lied in order to ban me. So to the person who sent me that Facebook message, I can't join Disenthrall's group. The only amendment that hasn't been abused so far, I don't actually know which one you're talking about, or this free offer or whatever. And thank you, Boris, for sending me some pounds. Although, to complete this payment, you must accept or deny within 30 days by clicking here. That's interesting. I wonder how that works specifically. Maybe it's because it has to convert, so it wants to make sure that you can like face that fee, or that they will face that fee or whatever. I don't know. all this aside, let me check the chat again. They have to go home safe at night, but us going home safe at night at the end of the night, comply or else. Yeah, definitely. It is a lost cause. The structure for total tyranny is already in place, and the people at the controls have no problem running the machine. Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the thing, right? That's the reason they liked the paperclip scientists. Hey, we got a bunch of Nazi scientists. They'll probably be willing to do a bunch of sick shit in the name of the U.S. government. Quick, get them over here. Forgive their crimes. Make it secret so that nobody fucking knows about it until years and years later. Yeah, that's not for them to do unscrupulous things. That's not for them to act against the interests of the American people. That's why you got Nazi scientists instead of American scientists. Boris says, I advise that everyone use a Linux distro. Ubuntu and Mint are good for the layman. I don't know what Mint is. You'll have to explain that to me, like if you want. Yellow Fox says, to put in a sentence, if you can't take it apart, don't trust those who put it together. Easier said than done in today's digital world, but worth the thought at least. Yes, worth the thought. Worth many thoughts. I'll think about that. So, to get back into it, we're at the Fifth Amendment now. So plead the Fifth and then watch as they trample all over your ability to do so. Beautiful, beautiful, perfect freedom, right? God, looking at OBS, it's just like another realization of how big my fucking mouth is. Jesus Christ. That aside, the Sixth Amendment, which most people don't ever talk about, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory processes for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. So, this one kinda works in some cases, But in many cases, trials are long as fuck because there's yet more and yet more and yet more evidence found. And some trials are reopened or whatever. Some trials are dismissed as the previous results because exculpatory evidence was excluded. That's why they're trying to get Kavanaugh on, even though I hate the fact that they're talking about Kavanaugh cock again for reasons that I went over last stream. So even this one, even this lesser known one that most people don't try to invoke, isn't really there. Seventh Amendment, in suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall otherwise be re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of common law. So this obviously has changed because the number has to have increased from $20. But the right of trial, because the fucking inflation, which, by the way, it should be considered a violation of persons' papers and effects when the U.S. government devalues every asset you own by printing yet more money so that your value goes down. If they can literally rob you with inflation, that's not a respect of the Fifth or the Fourth Amendments. Either one. So fuck the government, basically. Like I could say over and over again. And I'm not like reading from a script either. Except reading the amendments here. I'm just sort of fucking stream of consciousness here. This is why I don't have very many subs yet. I'll be trying to address that. Because there's a lot that I could talk about very specifically. But it's Constitution Day and I wanted to get something out for this. So maybe I'll make something relatively soon that goes into deeper detail on these scores. But the Seventh Amendment is pretty much bullshit. The eighth is excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. It's basically bullshit because there's no fucking standard by which a punishment could be considered cruel or unusual. And there's no specific, like, look into whatever the fucking term excessive is. So, this is one that can be weaseled out of easily. It's up to the opinions of judges and shit. That's not a standard. That's a suggestion. That's, please don't Bowie, basically. And as long as you have bullying people from the top, these sorts of things will be ignored and outright contravened. So fucking please look into these things. Look into the Ninth Amendment, which is the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people, which basically means, anything that we haven't already talked about is up for discussion and debate. Which basically means that all the things that they forgot to talk about or didn't talk about on purpose can still be, turned into laws later. That's where the states' rights argument comes in addition to the 10th Amendment, which is the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So, basically, anything that they hadn't discussed, you can make a law about. That's what the 9th and 10th Amendments say. And yeah, maybe this matters because there have been a lot of states' rights cases where liberties have been preserved, but liberties were also preserved for the purpose of state rights in the terms of discriminatory legislation, in the terms of increasing prison populations, in the terms of any number of liberties violations. So yeah, while the 10th Amendment can be used for good, it's like a gun. It's a neutral tool. It can either be used to save people or kill innocents. It's not that good, So the Bill of Rights that was supposed to address everything wrong with the Constitution doesn't. And it didn't address things well enough that the common person was protected in the form of preventing all these obvious and egregious abuses of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. And if you just say it's unconstitutional, you know what you'll get? You'll get a horde of people claiming that you're a fucking sovereign citizen and that you shouldn't be respected in a conversation. Oh, it's unconstitutional. Doesn't matter. We're just gonna fucking bully you now for having the audacity to say that a piece of paper matters more than our ability to be fucking tyrants. It doesn't. Doesn't mean shit. So, now that I've alienated most of my audience here, Mint is laid out like Windows. It's just another fork of Linux. It might be interesting to check out. Because I've never heard of that before. Mint is my phone company. That's about it. Which by the way, if y'all want a fucking cheap phone thing and you want it, like it's available in your area or whatever, feel free to use the link. I think I have one in the description, and help me get my Mint paid for by getting Mint for yourself, for also cheaper than it normally is. All that aside, it's been a long fucking day, a long fucking week, and you know, the fact that it's Constitution Day today, when the Constitution so clearly doesn't mean shit to most people, it was really a nice cherry on top for the fuck you Sunday. So all of that pretty much proves that the Bill of Rights is trash, that the Constitution is trash. So please stop acting like the fact that we have a Constitution means that the problems are dealt with. It's not remotely true. And just, you know, try to think about things a little bit better on that regard. This is also brought to you by Liberty Under Attack Publishing. If you need books published of a libertarian nature, feel free to check them out. They do graphic design, they do full service narration, bookbinding, I think, and they will give you a full service package for 20% off if you tell them Jeremiah sent you. Again, any of these would help me dramatically. If, you know, and tell them Jeremiah sent you anyway, even if you're not like getting the full service package for 20% off, because then they know that people who come to this asshole's channel are still willing to spend money on the things that they're passionate about. So feel free to check them out. Also, feel free to pick up Necrotopia. It's an apocalyptic role-playing game where you and your friends try to survive the actual apocalypse. It's not post-apocalypse. It's happening then. So feel free to check that out at necrotopiarpg.com. All of that aside, I just wanted to wrap it up by talking about one more thing. And that one more thing... Well, actually, two more things. Shit. Yeah, here's a good example for your Constitution Day. Vape bans. I just wanted to put this out there, you know, because most people aren't discussing it from this angle, and I figured that I'd just poke my asshole head out and see if anybody was interested. You know, controversial take. If I want to kill myself, it should be legal. And no, I don't want to before anyone sends condolences, but the vape ban proves the state's disrespect for autonomy. I should be able to get that cartridge knowing it'll do that. Don't fucking tread on me. You know? I mean, if Trump can ban your possession of a thing that could kill you if you misused it, he needs to ban knives, sharp corners in your houses, you know, just cigarettes, maybe, because those kill people in a much greater number. But oh no, we've got to ban vapes. Vapes are the bad guy now because of illicit cartridges that will still be used in the vape-pocalypse, right? So, please stop being stupid, people. This isn't about freedom, this Trump presidency. I mean, people love to call politicians stupid, but Trump knows exactly what he's doing. He's getting a vassal population who's okay with being serfs. You know? Oh, he's protecting me, therefore it's fine that he's fucking banning a thing that I use for my own purposes voluntarily. You know? Our lungs aren't even free. That's my person's papers and effects, bitch. Don't tread on me. That's what you tell Trump when he comes for your fucking e-cigarettes. You know? Have a Juul revolution. They tried to ban whiskey, uh, fucking and other forms of booze in the 20s. You know? There's gonna be vaping speakeasies. It's gonna be stupid. All that aside, I just thought I'd spend some time on one more issue. After I check the chat, that is. So let me check the chat. I have half the viewers as I had at the max stream. Hot dogs kill people too. I joke about protecting people from choking on wieners, but I don't want to give Mike Pence any ideas. Yeah. Okay. But all that aside, let's just talk 1 second about fucking dads. Dads are underappreciated, and no clearer does this become than when posts like this show up. So I just wanted to show you guys this post. And I wanted you guys to revel in how fucking stupid it is when people say this. I'm blowing it up so that people can't see other information on my screen, but it'll probably be better anyway. I don't know. Tell me if fucking it's too big. But this is the post. And I responded to it already. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he unfriends me for this anyway. But he says, I believe the number one most important, powerful, influential, respected job in the world is being a mother. Such bullshit. Now, it might just seem like a fucking innocuous, innocent post, right? But it's so painful when people try to virtue signal like this, because they ignore so many implications that their comment makes. In this particular case, let me be very fucking specific about the implications that it made by reading my comment relating to this. I'm gonna pull this up again. I had a better setup, but I didn't have the right window attached to it, so I'm not gonna mess with that during stream. But I said, I believe people who make this kind of comment ignore how many dads have died trying to put food on the table, and that maybe everyone has a part to play, which fake competition like this cheapens. If you tell kids, they'll call their dad a deadbeat till he kills himself. Because guess what? Want to talk a hard life? How about being victim to most violent crimes and death? Being abused more as kids, being injured more on the job, and being victim to about the same amount of domestic violence, and then not being given nearly any access to sex-specific mental health services, all while the whole of society tells you to suck it up and be a man about it, and while women say your job couldn't possibly be as hard or as respectable as being a mother. And this is a man who made the original post, too. This attitude prevents men seeking help for lack of desire for a challenge to a masculinity all of society, even precious mothers, say they need in order to be useful and valuable, and then leads to that same masculinity being called toxic by women demanding equal pay for less work, risk, and training, and everyone believing them when anything bad is reported ever, no matter what proof was presented. Men get the dirty end of the stick in almost all social affairs. Don't make it worse by pointing out how they couldn't possibly be as good a parent. And he says, a lot here. I want to engage. I believe you misunderstand the thrust of the point I intend to make. I didn't. Me saying motherhood is the single most influential job doesn't take anything away from dads who have a crucial job as well. As a man, I have no problem saying mothers should have the most respect for the kind of power they hold in shaping the minds and abilities of future generations. Not because I'm pandering to them, it's just empirically true. Bringing up no empirical data, by the way. Don't say something's empirically true if you're not going to bring up empirical data. Let me just say how fucking annoying it is to hear somebody talk about empirical data who brings up no empirical data. Fuck off. Anyway, fucking... I said they shouldn't have the most respect, period. Respect should be earned, not default for being a mother or a woman. A a lot of shitty moms out there. And he said, and by the way, before this continues, my mother is fantastic. She still is fantastic, and she was when I was growing up. You know, she was a single mother. She brought me away from a bad father, so I don't have the experience of somebody who hates their mother. And I really don't want this post to suddenly seem like I'm just being misogynist and saying women suck. They don't, but they don't automatically get victory. That ain't how shit works. That's my only point. And I supplement that point with the ideas that maybe, hey, men have it bad too. So I go up fucking here, and he says, well, we are talking cross points here. I'm not saying respect bad mothers. Yes, you are. I'm saying respect the position, the job, which includes bad mothers. And each of us can define what that job means to us. I have a very clear idea of what being a mother means to me. It's someone who provides wisdom and guidance, love and care, encouragement, and other long-lasting influences, which affect society as a whole. Can a man do it? Sure. Just historically, I think we see that men are not as good at it as women, but their role is different and also crucial. What about gay parents? Again, I'm not disparaging. I would love to be a gay parent one day. I'm just speaking at large, looking at a bad point of our culture. And I said, okay, first off, a dad provides wisdom and guidance, love and care, encouragement, and other long-lasting influences which affect society as a whole. Every single point you could make about a mother could be made about a father with few exceptions. And moving into the LGBT realm, when that isn't under discussion, won't end well. Because you're basically saying male gay couples can't have good families. No mother, the most important, powerful, and respected job? And yes, you are disparaging. You're saying that by default men aren't as important. Flatly false and extremely ignorant. I don't respect jobs, I respect workers. Mothering isn't good by default or more important than fatherhood by default, which is what you're saying, like it or not. You are inserting all kinds of things you want to insert, which I haven't said. And I said, nope, calling it the most important necessarily calls everything else less important. Change my mind, since you started off that way. And he says, yep, I stand by that much. Mothers shape minds. Generally speaking, they spend more time with the kids than dads. That's where most power lies. And I said, so I didn't put anything in your mouth, and everything I said stands. You're wrong, and that's what I stand by. He said, you tried to pin all sorts of bad ideas on me. No use in having a conversation with you since you lack the awareness of precision and nuance. Bullshit. Nope. Everything I said was true, and the logical conclusions of your idea. You've proven nothing otherwise, nor have you proven fathers are less important. So, Austin Corleone says, I'd be dead or in prison without my father. Not bad-mouthing my mother, but she could raise a man on her best day, and she didn't teach me my hobbies or my work skills. Hunting, fishing, sports, climbing, steel, framing houses, etc. Most of my current life stems from what my father taught me, from work to hobbies. Liking that comment, because I didn't see it because it started after my stream did. So, I got angry, with this guy because he's not being logical, he's not being reasonable, and he is bad-mouthing dads by default. Hell, it wouldn't surprise me if he unfriends me soon, especially if he fucking sees this video. But it's a stupid point. It's very manifestly stupid. And I just want to give dads out there some props for being dads, for being strong even when people like this try to tell you that you're not more important because of your gender and because of what you do as a parent. Mothers wouldn't be able to spend nearly as much time with kids, and this is proven empirically, if they weren't able to stay at home because of dads. So to hear somebody come up with this point that, mothers are so much better than dads by default, fuck you. I hate that, especially since I know what I know. I had to fucking pull this from my old blog, which, by the way, no, I'm not going to say what my old blog was. But And it might show up on this. I don't fucking care. But basically, I talked about this subject on that blog with what I called the male disposability primer. So what I did with this, yeah, okay, so it's not scrolling. Good. Um, is I said men are more likely to be raped than women, more likely murdered, more likely to commit suicide, more likely to die in the workplace, forced to sign up for selective service, more likely to be injured in the workplace, generally employed into more dangerous jobs, comparatively likely to die from diseases like cancer but less supported by charity and society, more likely to be domestically abused, demonized in society by, quote, stupid men and, quote, men are pigs stereotypes, more likely to be homeless, less likely to receive sex-specific abuse treatment and facilitation, more likely to have issues overlooked. He's a man, he can take it. Demonized for physical defense against the opposite sex, and still last in line for life-saving, women and children first. So I said rethink male privilege, right? This was an old blog of mine. I'm not going to resurrect it, but all the sources are here. And I'll probably just copy and paste this onto my fucking site with some reasonable excerpts from these sources. But to me, I really grow tired of people insinuating that men don't have rights issues. I hear them mocked constantly, on the media. Joe Rogan makes light of men being raped and boys being raped, like it's somehow not a pedophilic rape situation if, he had a boy who got molested, right? And I get it, it's a joke or whatever. But at the same time, it's not like he didn't seem like he had an air of seriousness about that. And it's not like he didn't bring it up in the context of podcasts, right? So I get really irritated with this. Dads have a hard time. Dads have it bad. And they take the brunt of society's bloody, deadly, fucking sick machine that grinds them into meat. That's how dads have it. So don't tell me that mothers are the most powerful. Don't tell me that mothers are immediately more important, especially since, let's say, if single parent dad was in there, no mother at all, that means that kid's not going to get his important stuff, right? Well, it depends on who they are. If you're a woman, you would do much better to talk to your mother about a lot of things. If you're a dude, you would do much better to talk to your father about a lot of things. So, with very few exceptions, obviously, like abusive parents or whatever. So, don't tell me, after hearing all of that, after talking to me in that sort of comment section, that women are more important or brave or stunning or whatever. Maybe you could make the point that some women are better than their male counterparts. Some women are more important, right? Because the father's a deadbeat or something. But don't tell me that that's universal. Fuck you. That's a garbage take. And, if I didn't think it was redeemable, like if I didn't think you would think about this later and maybe rethink your ideas, I would just say that it's a garbage idea from a garbage person like I normally would. But fucking I actually think he might go on and think about this, and I hope he does. Because what a trash idea to immediately assume that men aren't as important. Fuck that. Anyway, that's, I think, a reasonable place to wrap up the stream. Let me check the comments. It's mental gymnastics. It seems that everyone needs to be on a team, and they'll lose their principles if those principles undermine their team. Absolutely. Mothers push their child out, but that alone doesn't deserve respect. Look at me. My mom hated me for being black, and I was adopted by a family who actually loved me. I'm really sorry to hear that, and also glad to hear that it ended better. See, that's the thing. To say that they are more important, this is what I don't like. And what I brought up a while back, much to the chagrin of right libertarians. when I said that saying they in the context of a group is the beginnings of collectivist thinking. Because it fucking is. If you want to support liberty, if you want to support being good, shut the fuck up with this they shit. Take people on their individual level. Be better to everybody you know. Because this we shit, this us versus them shit, that's only going to lead to a state that knows how to exploit it, and you by extension. And all these reasons that I just gave that the Constitution is trash, a lot of them are real good indicators that we've let ourselves be exploited for way too long. Form the foundations of liberty in your own head. I might be on hiatus for the next few days. I don't know. It all depends on when I get called to help this D, who's still in a bad place. She's selling 4 of her goats. So if you wanna get those goats, go hit her up at Sweet D Says on Twitter. SEZ, all one word. Because people keep on maliciously flagging her Craigslist post, but she's trying to sell her goats, except one, I think, which has been with her forever, at a steep loss to what she bought them for, if I remember correctly. And she's offering like a bale of hay with each one. But feel free to check that out. Support her if you want to. Support me if you want to. I put the PayPal link up there. If you really want to support me, though, one of the best ways that you can support me is through Patreon. Patreon, if I had $1 from like a quarter of my audience, I could focus. $1 a month, and that's what I have it set to. I put out content on a near daily basis at this point, and I'm going to keep doing this for as long as I can. I'm going to even try to put out content on the days that I go to help her. It just depends on what I have time for. But all this aside, if you want to support this, even $1 a month on Patreon would be huge. If 0.1% of my audience decided that they wanted to spend $5 a month, I would be set. I could not only focus, but massively expand. So feel free, if you want to support my content, to hit up any of my sponsors and support what they do, or to, use any of the direct methods in the description. Because I'm going to need it if I'm going to keep on making my throat raw every evening. Anyway, be well, all of you. And don't let other people dictate the way that you treat other people. It's all up to you. Be better. I know I'm trying. Smash the state.